New opponent, same old Angels. The Halos make it 7 straight games without scoring more than 3 runs, but they kind of return to their old way of losing. We'll talk about it on tonight's edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast right now.
You are Locked On Angels Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls. Hello, Postcast people, and welcome to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live, as always, after every single Angels game, every single Angels loss, here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, live and after the fact, wherever you get the Locked On Angels podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, I'm Gavin Carlson. I spent not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 years, the last 4 years as a credentialed journalist in the LA area, and I am now, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm an Angels fan. You're probably an Angels fan, which means you, like myself, are feeling a lot of pain about this team. Like I said in the intro, the Angels make it 7 straight games without scoring more than 3 runs. They did their usual thing that they used to do a month ago, where they do absolutely nothing for the first 6 or so innings. Then they look like they're going to make a comeback, but then they always fall just short. We had that today instead of the recent, stretch, which has just been losing games by a ton of runs and not even making it close. Today, they kind of fooled us for a second, made us look like they had some life, made it look like they were going to maybe have an exciting comeback to break the skid, but no. At the end of the day, you got to score more than 3 runs to win baseball games. And once again, they could not do that. Shout out to everybody in here, as always, seeing some of the usual faces, or I always say faces, the usual profiles, Fud Alex, Angels Win, Saucy James, just to name a few. Appreciate you guys, as always. At this point, you know the deal, all right? I do this show because of you guys. The Angels, they don't get it done. They stink. But you guys are the reason I still talk about this team, because of the community we are building. So please keep making this the place to be after every single Angels game. Before we jump into this one, where we will talk about the comeback being spoiled, thanks to good hitting by the Royals, not bad pitching. Just don't blame the pitching, please. You know I'm going to keep advocating for it. Do not let a couple runs given up fool you. This is not the pitching staff's fault. We'll talk about that. I've got a rant about Taylor Ward coming, and it might surprise you, might not, that I'm coming with a rant on Taylor Ward, but that'll be coming in segment 2. But we'll start, of course, by breaking down the game. At least there's something to talk about. There were some turning points in this game. Obviously, you know what happened. The turning point led to a 5-3 loss for the Angels against the Royals. I didn't even say that. It takes me 3 minutes to get to the score, because at this point, who cares? The Angels are now 19 games under 500 for the first time all year. And let's be honest, that road to dodging 100 losses, it should be clear, but it might not be in the clear yet. It still might be a possibility with the way this team is playing. But before we jump into the show, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And where we start this one is in the top of the 7th inning, because that's when the Angels tried to show a little bit of life. Coming into this inning, the Angels had just 2 hits. Seth Lugo was absolutely dealing against our Angels. Guy who didn't always be, hadn't always been a starter in his career. This year with the Royals, he's turned into a starting pitcher, and he has been really pretty decent. Just a 3 ERA now after this game. He's 34 years old, and he was shutting down the Angels. Just 2 hits coming in to the top of the 7th inning. What happens in the top of the 7th inning? Well, the Angels finally show a bit of life. And it was one of those games, as always, where the starting pitcher mows through this lineup. Like I said, 2 hits, no life, really not threatening at any point. The only time it really felt like this team was threatening, top of the 5th inning, leadoff double from Logan O'Hoppe. And boy, how nice was it to finally see Logan O'Hoppe have a couple hits. That's probably easily one of the bigger wins in this loss. O'Hoppe leads off the 5th with a double. There's a Brandon Drury walk. First and second, nobody out. How about not 1, not 2, but 3 straight strikeouts to eliminate that scoring chance? But in the top of the 7th, the Angels finally do something. Of course, Anthony Rendon grounds out. O'Hoppe flies out. With 2 outs, though, Brandon Drury forces a walk. Mickey Moniak doubles. He rips one, a high and in slider on a second pitch of the at-bat. He rips it, and then Jo Adell gets a first pitch fastball from Seth Lugo right down the middle. And how many times do I talk about with Davis Daniel, with Jack Kohanowitz, with those type of pitchers that don't have crazy electric fastballs? You leave a fastball right down the middle, it should be crushed. Seth Lugo, the opposite of an electric fastball, just 91.4 mile an hour fastball right down the middle, and Jo Adell does absolutely everything you're supposed to do with that type of pitch. 113 exit velo, rips it into the gap in left center field. Drury scores, Moniak scores, and just like that, it was a 3-0 game. It's 3-2, and the tying run, Jo Adell is on second base. But guess who's coming up? Taylor Useless Ward. And of course, just one pitch for him to fly out, inning over. Then we get to the bottom of the 7th. And at this point, the starter is not in for the Angels. Instead, it is, I'm blanking, Victor Mederos is in there. He replaced Carson Fulmer, who wasn't amazing, but certainly wasn't terrible. You know I've been giving Carson Fulmer the benefit of the doubt all year because he's not supposed to be in this rotation. He does a good job in this game. Mederos comes in. He does a good job in the bottom of the 5th inning. Just gives up one single, but otherwise 2 strikeouts and a ground out. And then in the bottom of the 6th, he does a good job. Strikeout, gives up a double to Paul DeJong, but then fly out, line out, get out of the 6th. So we go to the 7th, right when the Angels score 2 runs in the bottom, in the top of the 7th, right when the Angels make you feel like maybe there's some hope, maybe there's a comeback on the way. What happens? 3 straight base runners for the Royals. Bobby Witt Jr., leadoff single. We know how amazing he is. Then Pasquantino, he forces a walk. It's first and second with nobody out. And this, my friends, is what's called just good hitting. This is why I'm not getting on the bullpen. You know, us Angels fans might forget it, okay? Might not know this, might not remember this. But sometimes hitters hit bad pitches, or hit good pitches, bad pitches to hit, they hit them. We don't know that as Angels fans. All we see is the only runs of the game coming on a Jo Adell, ripped double down the middle, on a fastball down the middle. Or Mickey Moniak ripping a hanging slider. That's all we see. That's the only time we think hits happen is when pitchers make terrible pitches. Sometimes a pitcher makes a good pitch, and other teams have real hitters that do something with it. Salvador Perez, talk about, a Royals legend, a veteran of all veterans. Good at bat, him against Mederos. A lot of pitches on the corner, kind of way out of the zone. It's 2-2. And Mederos throws a 97 mile an hour fastball high above the zone. I think it's where Logan O'Hoppe wanted it. And somehow, some way, Salvador Perez gets all over this one. He hit like a downward trajectory on this high fastball, rips it 107.8 exit velo down the left field line, and, third baseman never was going to have a play on this one. But here's where we start the Taylor Ward rant. And, it's funny. It's not like what I'm about to say really affected this game. At the end of the day, the Angels scored 3 runs. At the end of the day, it was 3-2 when Perez hits this ball down the line, and a run is going to score regardless of who's playing left field to make it 4-2. And honestly, if the best left fielder on the planet is playing left field, I think there's still it's pretty likely that the runner from first scores. So Gavin, what are you about to complain with Taylor Ward? Well, if you watch this play, if you watch this game, Taylor Ward he's walking, basically. He's playing in like left center field. This ball is ripped as down the line as possible. And I get it. In some parks, in some situations, the ball caroms hard off the wall and it shoots into left center field or something like that. But man, you're already losing. You're already down. A run is already going to score to put you down 2. There's a guy that you obviously know the second that ball is hit is going to try to score from first. Go run after the ball. If you overplay it, if you show too much effort, Taylor Ward, and you overplay it, you run past the ball, it takes a rough bounce off the left field wall, and it goes past you, am I going to criticize you? No. Are Angels fans who rightfully claim that you are kind of a lazy, lousy, subpar left fielder, are they going to complain if you overrun the ball? I don't think so. I'm going to complain when you are someone on a wheelchair is moving faster than Taylor Ward jogging to that ball. He's like 30, 40 feet away from the left field wall, and he's jogging as if the ball's going to hit the wall and bounce 40 feet towards him. Go run to the ball, man. And so sure, were they going to get to play at home? I don't think so. I mean, it doesn't help that after he jogs, after he takes 30 minutes to go get the ball, he throws a one-hopper to Zach Neto. So Zach Neto, as the cutoff man, has to scoop it, pick it from the outfield, then try to fire it home. You're never going to be able to pull that one off. You think, Taylor Ward, if you're going to walk to the ball in left field, you think you'd be able to at least get a throw into Zach Neto without it bouncing. But no, whoa, way too much to ask, right? Way too much to ask for a veteran. Yeah, but Gavin, Taylor Ward's primarily a hitter. He's primarily a hitter. That's why he went 0 for 4 today with 2 strikeouts. That's why he's hitting .234 on the year. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. And I don't know. If we win this game, do I talk about this play? I don't know, to be honest. I probably laugh about it, bring it up. But when it's a tight game, which we haven't had very much of in this stretch, we've lost 6 of our last 7 games. The offense is lifeless. And Taylor Ward, you're supposed to be a veteran. You're supposed to be a guy we can trust. I get it, you're not a fielder, but at least act like you care. Go run and pick up the ball. Stop walking. And then throwing these, lobbing these noodle arm throws into Zach Neto so he has no chance of making the play at home. Right? It's 5-3. Now, if Taylor Ward went 3 for 5. Oh, if only he had his pencil, ha ha ha. If he went 3 for 5, would I be talking about this? No, probably not. I'd say at least you did your job on one side. Taylor Ward never does his job. He never does his job. I said I was going to get to segment 2 to do the Taylor Ward rant. We're doing it right now. This guy never does his job. Okay? And so, surely enough, just like that, it's 5-3. Or, 5-2. 2 runs here on that Salvador Perez 2 RBI double. Why is it important? Because in the next inning, top of the 8th inning, the Angels lead it off with a solo shot from Zach Neto. You score your 3rd run. Man, just imagine if the Angels were able to not give up any runs in the inning before. This game would be tied. And sure, the Taylor Ward play did not cost the Angels this game, but it annoyed me, okay? I can be nitpicky. I can tell you what I feel annoyed about when this team never gives you anything good to talk about, right? I don't know. Tell me in the comments. You know I love the comments. You know I'm open to what you guys say. Tell me if I'm, being harsh on Taylor Ward here, but I have a feeling you guys are going to agree with me. This guy walks in the outfield. He slow jogs. He looks like me on a run where I'm purposely trying to pace myself because I'm about to run 8 miles. Not a guy who's got to run for 4 seconds to go pick up a baseball and throw it into a cutoff man. It's unbelievable. It's frustrating. It really is. At this point, all we ask for this team is to show some effort. You're getting paid millions of dollars, and I'm not even asking you to go 2 for 5. I'm just asking you to run in the outfield. Apparently, it's too much to ask. I can't believe it. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, I'm going to rant a little bit more about the lineup and why Taylor Ward and other stuff in the lineup is annoying me. We'll talk about Gavin's good, bad, and ugly. And then we'll talk about the pitching as well because, once again, I don't want to hear people blame the pitching. At this point, you need to score some runs. You got to score some runs. We'll talk about all that after our breaks here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. We'll be right back. Now, once again, today's show is brought to you by my favorite people at PrizePicks. Did you know that right now you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks? That's right. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with PrizePicks. What is PrizePicks? Well, it's only America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps where you're competing against other people who have all these algorithms and systems to make their lineups, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Not only do they have the opportunity to win 100 times your money, but one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. Think Tyreek Hill will get more than 90.5 yards in week 1? Aaron Jones runs for more or less than 66.5 yards? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. So join me and those 5 million other active members by downloading the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, run your game. Back here live on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. I am Gavin Carlson. Angels lose once again, 5-3 this time in the series opener in Kansas City against the Royals. The Angels are now 53-72, 19 games under 500. Once again, just 6 hits. Luckily tonight, there were some extra base hits. We know the Angels can only score when they have extra base hits. We had a solo home run from Zach Neto. We had a 2 RBI double from Joe Adell. Angels still 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position. They still strand 5. Somehow the Royals were even worse. They strand 8, 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position, but they win because all you got to do is score 5 runs. You got to score the amount of runs as fingers as you have on your hand, and you'll beat the Angels every time because the Angels make it 7 straight games. They've gone a week without scoring more than 3 runs. And unsurprisingly, they are 1-6, in that stretch. They got swept by the Blue Jays. They've lost 3 straight, 2 to the Braves, 1 to the Royals. Their only win, a 3-2 win against the Braves, where, once again, they still scored less than 4 runs. We already talked about the turning point in this game, which was the Angels looking like they were going to, mount a comeback, a 2-run 7th inning, a 2-run double from Joe Adell, but then they gave the 2 runs right back thanks to a great piece of hitting from Salvador Perez. I already ranted about Taylor Ward and his lack of effort defensively, and that Zach Neto solo home run in the 8th did not ultimately matter because the Angels still lose this one 5-3. Now, I promised a little bit more of a rant, and here it is. Someone has to explain to me how, at this point in the year, it's August 19th, how in the world is there a lineup where old Taylor Ward is leading off while Nico Kavadis is hitting cleanup? In what world does that make sense? In what world? You got to tell me. Nico Kavadis is making his MLB debut this past week, as a 25-year-old, first off. He doesn't have a major league hit. He's now 0 for 7 to start his career. That's fine. It's hard. Baseball's a hard sport. Hitting is a hard thing to do. Am I going to get on a guy for starting his career 0 for 7? No. He's had a couple walks. He's gotten on base. He's not been good at all. But first off, why is he the second Angels rookie ever to make his debut at the cleanup spot? Make it make sense? Then, why does he stay in that spot multiple games? He hasn't gotten a hit yet. Why is he still hitting cleanup? But, the only way you could justify this is, hey, the Angels, if you told me 3 months ago, the Angels are going to be starting Nico Kavadis at the cleanup spot, I'd say, oh, okay. That means they did their job at the deadline. That means they traded Taylor Ward. That means they traded Brandon Drury, if they could, or Kevin Pillar. Right? That means they traded Willie Calhoun instead of DFAing him. That's the only way that they would be starting a guy who doesn't have a major league hit at cleanup, right? No. No, that'd be way too smart, way too logical for this franchise. No, we're not only going to keep Taylor Ward, we're going to hit him lead off in the same point of the season where we're hitting a guy who doesn't have an MLB hit to his name, cleanup. Ah, yes. Talk about being the most confused, illogical, directionless franchise I've ever heard of in my life. Are you rebuilding or are you competing? We know you're not competing, but if you're not competing, why is Taylor Ward leading off? Oh, maybe because you want to, have your lineup that's going to be playing every day next year, get some experience. Maybe you think Taylor Ward's going to be your leadoff hitter next year. Maybe that's why, right? Well, no, because you better not be telling me that Nico Kavadis is your cleanup hitter next year. You better not be telling me that. And I still have no idea why Taylor Ward's leading off. Oh, but Gavin, he had a pencil painted on his bat and got a couple hits over the weekend. I could care less. This guy's hitting .234 while playing the worst left field I've ever seen. We already talked about that. Nolan Samuel was perfectly fine in the leadoff spot. He's been heating up. Hit him leadoff. Hit Zach Neto second. Hit Logan O'Hoppe third. Move Moniak up in the lineup. Commit to the young thing. If you want to have Nico Kavadis hitting cleanup because you want this to be a young revolution for the end of the year, that's fine. That makes sense. You're not playing for anything. Have a bunch of young guys out there. That's fine. But don't do this in-between thing where Nolan Samuel gets moved from the leadoff spot. The future of maybe your leadoff spot in Nolan Samuel gets taken out of it. So Taylor Ward can hit leadoff and hit .234 and go 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts while playing horrible defense at the same time that a guy who doesn't have a hit in his career is hitting cleanup. Mickey Moniak should be hitting above Nico Kavadis. Joe Adell. Joe, 204, does nothing but hits an extra base hit once a week. Adell should be hitting above Nico Kavadis. Why in the world is Nico Kavadis hitting cleanup in the same lineup that Taylor Ward is leading off? It doesn't make any sense at all. Makes no sense. Anthony Rendon does his usual thing. Oh, he's back from the injury. What did he do, Gavin? 0 for 4 with the strikeout. The usual. Thank goodness Logan O'Hoppe remembered how to hit. 2 for 4 today. He had an extra base hit, a double. Move him right back up. I don't even care if it took 1 game, 2 games. Move him back up. Hopefully he's out of the slump. Move him up. Move him up. He should be hitting cleanup above Nico Kavadis. Logan O'Hoppe could go 0 for the next 70. He should be hitting cleanup before Nico Kavadis. Because A, he's better than Nico Kavadis right now, and B, he's a certain part of your future. It doesn't make any sense at all. Someone's got to explain it to me. I got to hear from Ron Washington, why in the world is this happening? I defend you, Ron. In the next segment, I'm going to talk once again about why this pitching staff is exceeding expectations even though we lose every game, and why I think you and the pitching coaches deserve credit for it. But you got to explain to me why in the world a lineup has a old grandpa that's not even hitting well, Taylor Ward, hitting leadoff, while a guy who doesn't have an MLB hit is hitting cleanup, while the future of your team gets moved out of the leadoff spot, while the future of your team, Logan O'Hoppe, is hitting after Anthony Rendon and Nico Kavadis. Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell, they might not be great. They're a whole lot better than Brandon Drury. Why in the world is Brandon Drury playing, let alone hitting 7th? He's not a part of the future, and he's not better than Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell right now. If I'm Ron Washington making this lineup, priority number 1 is for the future. Okay. If that's priority number 1, Ward, Rendon, Drury should be moved down to the bottom. They're not future guys, right? Obviously. You're playing against a righty, so you don't need to start righties, move them up in the lineup or anything. Moniak hits righties pretty well, should be moved up. So if you're doing the young thing, if you're doing the who do I think is going to help me win the most right now, Brandon Drury is the last person on the list. Nico Kavadis is maybe 1 spot above Brandon Drury. And those guys are hitting above Moniak and Adell, and Taylor Ward is hitting above everybody. It makes no sense. Absolutely clueless lineup making, decision making, directionless franchise. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. I'm working up a sweat, not just because it's hot in here, but because I'm hot. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. Just have a direction. Lose with a little bit of logic when you lose. You lose in the same way with a horrible lineup that doesn't help you for tomorrow. It doesn't help you for a week from now. It doesn't help you for a month from now. It doesn't help you for 3 years from now. It doesn't help you at all. It makes no sense. We're going to take our last break. When I come back, I'm going to talk about the pitching because, once again, an okay start from a guy who shouldn't have an okay start. Bullpen is okay other than 1 mistake. And we'll read your comments, as we always do, before we wrap this one up here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Oh, man, I am just worked up. Worked up. Finally, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, you've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, I have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. That's pretty darn good. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel any time. I already talked about it yesterday's show. I'll talk about it again today. Sunday Ticket on YouTube is amazing. I grew up in a household that had Sunday Ticket, had DirecTV just for Sunday Ticket, and sure, on the TV it was fine, but on the app it was not good. YouTube obviously is a master in streaming, in mobile devices, in mobile streaming. YouTube TV, it works on your smart TV. It works on your phone. It is seamless. It is quick. You can go back and forth between games. You can watch multiple games at once. So not only is FanDuel great, not only is FanDuel America's #1 sportsbook, but you get YouTube TV and NFL Sunday Ticket, a 3-day free trial. All you have to do is bet $5. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel, and take advantage of that great promotion. Back here live one more time on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. This is the Locked On Angels Postcast. I am Gavin Carlson, a frustrated one. You can tell if you've watched this postcast or listened to this postcast at all. You can tell I'm frustrated. I ranted in the first segment. I honestly ranted in the second segment. Not the worst loss of this stretch at all, of this 6 losses in 7-game stretch. One of the closer games we've had all week, but another frustrating one. And the lineup doesn't make sense, and it stinks because it felt like there was a chance they were going to come back, but of course they did not. The reason this game was close, despite only having 2 hits going into the 7th inning, is because once again, pitchers kind of exceeded expectations a little bit. Carson Fulmer, was he stellar? No. Was he terrible, though? No. Once again, this is not a guy who's supposed to be a starting pitcher in the MLB. And yet he gives you 4 innings, he gives up just 5 hits, he gives up 3 runs, but only 2 of them are earned because there is an error. Now, albeit it is an error from Carson Fulmer on a failed pickup attempt. And he did give up a home run. Salvador Perez had a great game, but Carson Fulmer, if you told me before the game, Carson Fulmer's only going to give up 2 earned runs, 3 runs total through 4, I take it. On most teams, that's good enough. Not on the Angels, though. Medeiros, we already talked about him. Sure, he did give up a costly 2 RBI double to Salvador Perez, but it wasn't a bad pitch. Just a good piece of hitting from Salvador Perez. Sometimes us Angel fans forget that people can hit bad pitches. People on other teams do it, though. Not the Angels, though. Burke was good. Scoreless inning. Had a strikeout. Matt Moore was good for once. Never happens. A scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts for him. So, once again, the bullpen, pretty good. Starting pitcher that's not supposed to be a starter, good enough. But never good enough for a win when your lineup, when your offense continues to do absolutely nothing. Let's get to your comments before we wrap this one up because you, as I've said a million times, you guys are the reason I do this show. Angels Win says, game over. Will we ever win another series this year? Will we better, or else we might get to that dreaded 100-loss milestone, bad milestone that we're trying to avoid. And then Angels Win adds, I guess I should change my name to Angels Lose. Man, that is brutal. That's brutal. Saucy James says, wait, we lost? That's a switch. Nice sarcasm, buddy. Angels Win says, Gavin must be excited to discuss another Angels L. I'm used to it at this point. Oh, man, I'm used to it at this point. But Alex, what up? Eric Gamboa, love seeing you back in here. He says, we are numb at this point. Absolutely. But Alex says, they don't want to play anymore. Not surprised. Eric says, dude, I love seeing Mickey play right now. The dude is turning it around. Yeah, I mean, Mickey Moniak, he gives you an extra base hit every once in a while. The swing is not a bad swing. I like his swing. And against righties, he's actually pretty good. Now, should he be hitting every day? No, on most teams he shouldn't. But should he be higher in this lineup, especially against a righty, especially with Brandon Drury in the lineup, especially with Anthony Rendon in the lineup, especially with Nico Kavadis in the lineup? Yes, Mickey Moniak should be hitting higher, and yet we've got him hitting 8th, Joe Adell hitting 9th, and ironically, they have 2 of the biggest hits of the game. 2 of the 3 biggest hits of the game come from the guys hitting 8 and 9 because they shouldn't be hitting 8 and 9 because this lineup is that bad. Angels Win says, at this point, you might as well tank for next year's #1 pick. Yeah, who knows? I wish there was a Paul Skeens type of guy to go get. We'll never have that, though, for us. Jeff back, he says, another loss. There you have it. I'm at work, just checking in. Appreciate it, as always. Fud Alex says that he's been slacking all year. I'm sure you're talking about Taylor Ward. Angels Win says, my luck, Caleb will get hurt and get 0 yards. That's hilarious. That is hilarious. Michael D54 says, what is the point of starting number 6 every game? Bring up anyone from the minors to see what they can do and bench his sorry ASS. I agree. Oh, man, I agree. But at this point, who do you even play? And I don't know. Even with Anthony Rendon in the lineup, you still have guys like Nico Kavadis playing. So imagine if he's out. There'd be, I mean, what was that guy's name? I'm forgetting. The shortstop we just called up, who's like another old guy who's never played in the MLB, has like 3 hits in the league in his career, who, wow, he's a good fielder. That's who we're calling up at this point. Angels Win says, fire on Washington. Anthony Jimenez is back. He says, hi all. He says, if things made sense, this wouldn't be Angels baseball. Responding to my rant. Yes, absolutely. And finally, Angels Win says, Rendon, 0 home runs in more than a year is wild. He's useless. He's useless. 579 OPS. The only worse OPS is Brandon Drury, who's hitting 453 OPS, 162 average, and yet this guy is still hitting above Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell. It makes no sense, but as Anthony Jimenez just said, if things made sense, it wouldn't be Angels baseball. What a perfect way to end this postcast. The Angels continue their struggles. 5-3 loss to the Kansas City Royals to open up this series in Kansas City. I'm Gavin Carlson. This was the Locked On Angels postcast. Appreciate you guys as always. Make sure if you're watching on your phone sideways, flip it up and down. hit that like button. If you're watching on your laptop, scroll down, click the like button. If you're watching or if you're listening on Spotify or SoundCloud or Apple Podcasts or anything, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate it so much. But with all that being said, I'll be back here tomorrow as always. I hope you guys appreciate my consistency, my loyalty, even though the Angels don't deserve it. But I'll be back here tomorrow as I always am, and please join me as you always do. All right, I'm Gavin Carlson. Angels lose 5-3, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow. And as always, even after this brutal stretch, go Angels. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your night.